Hey guys, so to start off this skull makeup, I am using a Tag Ivory face paint and I'm just basing out my whole face. You can use a very pale foundation if you want, but just make sure that you powder it off afterwards. Now I'm going in with a small round brush and a very dark brown face paint. And I'm using this to outline all of the darker areas and the general shape of my skull. Make sure that you actually try to use the shape of your own face. If you do your eye sockets bigger and rounder than this, you're going to end up with panda eyes and it's going to look a little bit less realistic. Also, while doing this makeup, I actually had a pretty good reference image of a skull next to me, so you're going to see me looking back and forth a few times. Now I'm going in and I'm creating the outlines for my cheekbones and for my temples. And here I'm outlining where my teeth are going to go, and also I'm going to do the outlines for my jawbone as well. Don't worry if your outlines are a little bit messy, we're actually going to go over them and they kind of work as a bit of a shade straight away. Now that I'm happy with the shape of my skull, I'm going in with that brown face paint and I'm just hollowing out all of the hollow areas of the skull. Once I've hollowed out all of my darker areas, I'm going back in with some ivory face paint and I'm just covering some of those sketchy lines that I made. Using the same brown star blend or brown eyeshadow, I'm also putting some just in the corner of the top of my eyes as well. Okay, so now it's time for heaps of shading. So I'm using a brown star blend for this, but you can use a brown eyeshadow or a contour palette. And I'm just going in around the face, and I've got my reference image of a skull next to me, so I'm looking at that quite often and just seeing where all the little shadows and things are on a skull itself. It doesn't matter too much if your shading is a little bit rough, it just adds some extra texture to your skull. Skulls aren't completely smooth, they have little cracks and bumps in them, so you want to have some nice texture in there. Once I'm happy with that, to add some extra depth, I'm now going to go in with a black star blend. Again, you can just use a black eyeshadow if you want. And I'm just darkening out the very deep areas of those hollow bits that I've made. I'm also adding some extra darkness underneath my cheekbones because I really want them to stick out. So now that we've done all of our shadows, I want to add some highlights straight away. So I'm using a face painting sponge and some Tag White. And I'm using a sponge for this because it does add a little bit of extra texture, and using a brush can sometimes make things look a bit too smooth or defined. So I'm just using the edge of a sponge for this, and I'm just going around my shadows and adding a highlight to them. For the more defined highlights, I am using a brush, and I'm just going over that brushwork with the sponge as well, just to fade it out a little bit. Now it's time to start adding in the teeth, so I'm using a tag white for this as well, and I'm starting with the middle teeth, and they're the biggest ones, and then going out to the sides I'm making them go slowly skinnier so that it kind of has the appearance that they're falling behind each other, which gives it more of a 3D effect. So now to bring those teeth further back, I'm using my brown star blend again, and I'm just fading them out a little bit. Using the same dark brown face paint that I had earlier, I'm now outlining my teeth. This is probably my least favorite part of doing a skull. It can be quite fiddly, so just take your time and try and do it nice and tidily around the teeth. Once my teeth are all outlined, I'm going in with my dark brown star blend again, and I'm just adding some shading around the teeth. And now I'm adding some highlights around the teeth using the same brown star blend or brown eyeshadow. I'm also putting some just in the corner of the top of my eyes as well. So now I'm using a tag black face paint, and I'm just putting that around my jawbone to really lift the skull off my face. If you wanted to go for an even more intense effect, you can completely blacken out your neck and your ears as well. Now again, using a small round brush and my dark brown face paint, I'm just creating some nice little cracks to add some finishing details. Also remember to add a few final highlights using your tag white. And that is my skull all finished. Now I know that there were a lot of steps in the skull makeup, but I hope it was easy enough to follow. Like I said, you can darken out your neck as well and your ears to have a more finished look. But I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll catch you all next time.